Yeah, call in. And there we go. It was going on, man. You live.
Hello, good evening, sir.
How you doing, man?
How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Well, thank you for having me on your show.
It's not a problem, man. Thanks for wanting to be on it. Want to have this discussion, and it's this is going to be my first live debate. So hopefully we can have some fun with this.
Yeah, I'm all about having debates that are fruitful.
Right.
I'm not trying to argue back and forth or make this a negative thing. I feel like at the end of this, we should both, even if we disagree, should both walk away having learned something.
Right. Okay, so it's like I said to my audience, the main topic is that from what Jody Corner said about that whole crackhead being a means to keep black people down. I said that's not really a big only black person thing, unless we actually talk about the N word with the ER because that is a words of a means to keep black people down. But that whole crackhead comment, that's not really a big word to keep black people down. But you disagree with me on that one, so I want to hear your reasoning why.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna try to start small, and then the conversation might get bigger.
Okay.
But for me, it's very simple, right? There's a lot of things going on in that argument, in that debate, rather, between Jody and are we calling him Young Ripper? Are we calling him Eric July? Which I don't know what he goes by.
He mainly goes by Young Ripper.
Okay, so between Young Ripper and Jody, there was a lot of debate that was going on, a lot to unpack in that specific conversation. But in terms of the way that Ripper uses the term crackhead, it's not directly a racist word. Yes, if you look at the definition of what a crackhead is, it's someone who's addicted to crack cocaine. So if you want to strip away all of the context and just look at it as a word that's defined, yeah, that word can apply to anybody, white, black, whoever. But the truth is there is a history between African Americans and crack cocaine. And you said on your channel, you said stereotypes for black people is that we smoke weed and for white people is that we smoke crack.
Right.
That's the main thing that I disagree with, because historically, crack cocaine has been associated with black people. Now, white powder cocaine, like pure cocaine, yeah, that is it's a rich white people drug. They do it in clubs and things like that. It's associated with people who have a lot of wealth who are white. Yes, pure cocaine. But crack cocaine has always been associated with black people, especially if you look at the history of things that have happened between black people and the crack cocaine epidemic.
Right.
So my thing is that when the Ripper uses that term, it's lazy, it's insensitive, and it doesn't acknowledge the racial aspect that black America has had with crack cocaine. Now, my whole thing with Ripper is that that's his whole MO. His whole modus operandi is that, hey, why are you so obsessed with race? Why are you always bringing race into the conversation? I know if I was talking to him right now, that's probably would be the thing that he would say. He's like, why are you so fixated on race? And my question to him and also to you is like, why are you guys so intent on ignoring race? Why are you guys so comfortable with taking race out of every single conversation, especially as it appeals to black people? Because it seems like as soon as you start mentioning race, you guys react and say, why are you so obsessed with race? Why? And I'm just trying to figure out, we're all black men here. Why are we not allowed to acknowledge the history that this country has had with suffering and essentially keeping black people down? And that is all tied into calling a black person a crackhead.
Okay. I do talk a lot about the whole justice system, or the system in general when it comes to black people, the school system, the welfare system, the single parent household. I talk about that all the time, and the whole we don't obsess over race thing, because when it comes to like talking points from the left, it's they main means to like get black people on their side who. If you just say the word like racist, you'll see a lot of people just jump up and be like, just say, oh, we're gonna call it out with this, we're gonna call it out with that. Even with the whole crackhead thing, I feel you with the whole epidemic with crack cocaine thing, but when it comes to days now, it's not really a big issue when it comes to us. Yes, there are still some black people out there on crack, but some of us don't see it as crack is just for a term for black people, which is what Jody Corner used in his video. And with the whole young whipper thing, it's mainly when he's talking about using the word crackhead, he's mainly talking about some white leftists. So when Jody saw that tweet and he saw it as a means of Ripper is putting down black people by calling us crackheads, and this is again this Jody Corner, this guy doesn't even watch Ripper to even know that. When he uses crackheads, he's mainly talking about white people and the dumb ideology or the dumb terms, the dumb left wing PC politics that they try to push on black people to create like a forced diversity, which in terms is not really the good kind of diversity, because it doesn't really help out black people when it comes to like places like Hollywood, TVs, music and all that stuff. It doesn't really help us out in the long term. That whole crackhead is just for black people thing. No. That's he trying to make it seem so. And when I use crackhead, I like mainly because my family is pro black. When we use crackhead, we mainly talk about white people when we talk about crackheads. We'll just say crack people and think, hey, it's black people. No, when we use the term crackhead, we use it to mainly trash talk some white people out there. So that whole, and then the whole we don't see racism racism as a main issue. That's not like, we understand there's racism out there, but it should not be a main factor of why black people should not be graded, because there are plenty of black people out there that took those hardships and then use it as a means to drive them even further to more a successful path, which is what I'm promoting and what I'm for. I'm talking about like the whole, we should stop voted for a bigger government. We should depend on our own black businesses. We should depend on our own entrepreneurs and all that stuff. We should be elevating black neighborhoods and try to make them better. But if you try to say some terms like that, if you try to say like black people don't need the government in order to do anything, then apparently it's a bad talking point that apparently a lot of quote unquote pro black people don't want to talk about. And that's something that kind of doesn't, people don't really get in their mindset.
Right. And listen, I understand everything you just said. Everything you said about not supporting black businesses and depending on black businesses not being supportive of the government. Are you a libertarian? Am I right or correct about that?
Yeah, I'm a libertarian.
Okay. So I understand where your mentality is coming from. So we don't even need to talk about that, because you and I are agreeing in all of that. Going back to the crackhead debate, and what I really think this debate is really about what Young Ripper does,
right?
And how he handles race, which is my big issue with him, and what Jody was trying to say. But Jody kind of came at him from a street kind of perspective. He was arguing with him the way you would argue with somebody in the street. But if we want to talk about it in a more debate level, because I do agree with what Jody says, what Jody was essentially trying to say is that Young Ripper, the way that he moves and the tactics that he uses is that he tries to take racial layers out of the conversation, and that makes his white fans more comfortable. And that's the huge issue that I have, is because if you look at his page and every single post that he has, especially when you're talking about wokeism, right, and being anti-woke and the agenda of SJWs and the wacky leftists and all that, it's all a very one-note philosophy where essentially he is trying to create a narrative that any type of diversity or forced diversity, as they say it, or forced inclusion is wrong. And that if you do that, you're part of some agenda. And he reacts against every single time a movie or a TV show tries to be diverse or tries to be inclusive, and he labels it and brands it as woke. And the point that I'm trying to make is that only makes his prejudice, bias, and sometimes racist fan base more comfortable in their feelings because they now have a black man who agrees with them. And that's essentially what Jody was saying as him being a token, is that his point of view is only making white racists more comfortable. And that's a big part of his fan base. And the thing about it is, I'm not even mad at him because he's making money. He's getting a lot of hits on YouTube. And, you know, that's how he gets his money, and that's fine. But what Jody said is right about him, Jody being able to say whatever he wants. Yeah, he'll lose subscribers. You pointed out the fact that he lost subscribers. Sure, he'll lose subscribers, but that's because he's being honest and speaking his truth. Let Young Ripper make a video talking about the left did something right. Let him make a video talking about the right did something wrong. He'll lose followers too. He has to stay on that side of the fence. He has to always argue in favor of the right against the left in order to maintain his narrative. Yeah. I'll let you speak. My bad.
Yeah. But the thing is, he does call out the right. He literally has videos out there that's titled "Chicken Shit Republicans." When there's a bill that gets passed over that does not benefit like the people, and it mainly puts money in more money in the government's pocket, that's when he mainly calls them out. Because you have some people on the right, which again, I'm not on the right because there's a bunch of things about them that they can be fixed, like them not actually trying to communicate with black people, even though they say they want the black vote. The hell with them. But that whole he doesn't call out Republicans. That's also like a falsified thing, because Jody does not actually watch his content. I've been watching Young Ripper for like a year and a half now. And there's plenty of times that he called out. He even called out Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers for being too uptight with Trump, being too praisable with Trump. And he said this wholeheartedly. He's even in doing those live debates they doing or those talks they be doing. He does call out a lot of things from the right, and his fans understand, and his fan base understands that he's able to like be himself. He doesn't have to be a left wing. He doesn't have to be a right wing. He may talk more about some right wing points, but that doesn't mean he's right wing. Prime example.
Okay. All right. I mean, you know what? Before you continue, I admittedly don't watch. I haven't been watching Young Ripper for a year or whatever. People try to put me onto him before. I never really watched him. I've only been paying attention to his like last 2 months or so of content. So that's what I'm primarily speaking about. But if you're telling me that he's got videos that, you know, go against that and everything, then it makes my point moot. But if I'm still responding to, you know, a lot of the content that I see that's getting most of the views and most of the traction for him, when I see the algorithm, because everything is pushed by the algorithm. When a Young Ripper algorithmic video pops up, it's usually something about anti-woke, anti-SJW, you know what I mean? That type of narrative.
Right.
He might have videos go on the contrary, perhaps, but that doesn't seem to be the driving force behind his channel, in my opinion. I noticed some of your people in your chats are saying that, you know, I'm race obsessed and you know, I'm too fixated on the past. My whole thing is, why do y'all want to erase the past? Like, that's exactly what white America wants. They want us to forget about slavery and civil rights. Simply acknowledging these things is not an obsession. I don't walk around playing the race card. I walk around meeting everyone face to face and acting normal. But then when racism happens to me, I'm forced to acknowledge it, and I'm forced to acknowledge the 100-year history of Black Americans in this country. So I don't want to be obsessed with race either, but it's thrown up in our face all the time. And when TV shows and movies are, you know, adding that to the narrative, there's suddenly a problem with that. You know, it's suddenly a problem to acknowledge what really happened to African Americans and Latino Americans. I think that, I don't know. I think there's a difference between acknowledging race and being obsessed with it. And everyone keeps pushing it to obsession. It's not about obsession, man. It's about not being colorblind. You know, I'm not going to ignore what happened to people, to our people, especially when we're trying to be creative and trying to, you know, move forward in Hollywood. You know, like I really don't understand why so many people are so threatened by diversity in television and film. I just don't get this concept that keeps getting pushed. It scrambles my brain.
I don't think it's that people don't like diversity. It's the fact that, you know, it's more dry. It's more dry. Like they just push it and push it. Like they don't actually try to make a good movie. with good characters, a good storyline. They just see different actors from different places, and they just bring them in, and not actually try to make those characters good, who can represent some people. But when Hollywood
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna just list off a couple TV shows and a couple movies, and I just want you to tell me, did you like these or not? Did you like Get Out?
I did like Get Out.
Did you like that season of Watchmen?
I did not. I did not watch that show.
Okay. Did you like Lovecraft Country?
I did like some episodes, but not every
Not the whole thing. Okay. Did you see what's this last? Okay, Peacemaker. Peacemaker is a great example. Did you like Did you watch Peacemaker? Did you like Peacemaker?
I did like it. And if you talk about Peacemaker's dad like that, that was something that I can acknowledge.
The point that I'm trying to make is those TV shows and movies are generally acknowledged as being really good. I mean, they've won Emmys, they've been nominated for Oscars. Most people consider those TV shows and movies to be really good, well produced, good characters, well written, and they are woke as fuck. Every single one of those shows are extremely woke. And I don't see Nerdtronic and Ryan and Geeks and Gamers, I don't see them flaming those TV shows and movies. The point that I'm trying to make is that you can make something woke and it can be good. So if they make something woke and it's bad, the fact that it's woke is not the reason that it's bad. The reason that it's bad is because it's poorly written.
Right.
So if you want to critique something for being bad, go ahead. You know what I mean? There's movies and TV shows that are trash that have a lot of virtue signaling and SJW stuff in it. And sometimes it goes too far. I'm not going to debate that. But my point is, why is every single movie, every single TV show, to the point where y'all haven't even seen it? Y'all haven't even seen the Lord of the Rings TV show. Y'all haven't even seen Halo yet. And y'all got like a dozen videos saying, oh my God, this is woke, dead on arrival. Young Ripper, and this is what really triggered me with him, he had the nerve to say that the Miss Marvel TV show and the trailer is trash, but he refused to watch the trailer. How you gonna tell me a trailer is trash that you refuse to watch? And that's what I'm saying. This shit is just for clickbait, man. This is just an algorithmically driven clickbait, you know what I mean, agenda that essentially is creating a safe space for I hate to say it, but like white nationalism. Like that's essentially what it is, because when you have people of the other race agreeing with you, you feel a lot more comfortable in your prejudice and your bias and sometimes racism. And I know I've been going off on a rant, so I'm gonna let you speak.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, there are some shows that do have some woke in it, but it's how it's executed, like you said. As long as it's like well written, people can get behind it. But if it's just like, have you seen Eternals?
Yeah, I saw Eternals.
Yeah, like that movie was mainly focused on diversity and not actually some good writing.
But here's the thing, though, and I know people flame Eternals. It wasn't the best Marvel movie, but if you have an ancient tribe of eternal cyborgs, which is essentially from all over the world, why wouldn't they be diverse? Like, why wouldn't one of them be gay and one of them be trans or whatever? They represent every single aspect of society. So there was a straight white one, there was a gay black one, like. In terms of the narrative, making that diverse only makes perfect sense. And if the movie didn't hit, okay, it might not have been good. A lot of people didn't like it. I happen to have liked it, but a lot of people didn't like it. That's fine. You're absolutely entitled to not like a movie or TV show. But blaming the diversity, blaming the inclusivity for the reason that's bad, that means that you have either some prejudice, some bias, or yes, maybe some racism inside your heart that you're not conscious of because you're unable to see past the diversity.
Yeah, but if you had seen some of those interviews, like that was the main thing, like that a lot of people in that during the premiere was talking about. They was more worried about the diversity, but they wasn't actually worried about the storyline, the characters. They wasn't worried about how this may impact the MCU. They wasn't worried about the characters themselves. They was more worried about representation and all that stuff. Even some of the gay black character, they wasn't really worried about him. They was more about representation, about what color his skin is and how that could quote unquote help out or represent black people, which is not what they was going for at all. If you can make a gay black person represent some black people out there, and push them out there to be like one of the great characters out there. Prime example: Blade, Static Shock. I still have not seen Static Shock out there in the TV in like a live action TV show or a movie. Which
I think they're doing a movie, if I'm not mistaken. They got a Static Shock movie that they're working on.
But they can't find the actor. They keep on thinking about Jaden Smith, but I don't know about Jaden Smith. And
I think that would be a good pick. But he's a little old. He's getting a little old though.
Yeah, but the thing, especially when it comes to shows like Static Shock from the CW 4Kids, that show with its diversity and everything, with black people, white people, Hispanics, being a cross-platform against the animated series between Batman, Superman, Justice League, that show did it well. It wasn't like, hey, here's Wonder Woman, here's a woman representing women, here's Hawk Girl, here's Flash, here's a Green Man. We're gonna push all this. No, they just put him in there, and they just let the story speak for himself. And with how the Static Shock show did it, with all the problems in the black community, like that TV show itself is got me like into the comics and all that stuff.
Right. I mean, that's my wife's favorite cartoon. She loves Static Shock. But I mean, but let's look at the history of Static Shock. Static Shock was created by Milestone Comics.
Right.
And that was like 4 black guys who basically came up with a comic company and faced the odds to finally get that comic company going. And then DC bought Static Shock and bought Milestone Comics and molded them into the DC universe. But with the point that I'm even trying to make with Static Shock is that look how much time that took, decades just to get that character to that cartoon show. That's how far we have to go. For you people who want us to, erase the history and forget about the history, we as black people had to work 4 or 5 times harder just to get a black character like Static Shock in a cartoon show. And to Count Chocula, who say, why are they trying to erase the past source material? Okay, you could have adapted Eternals exactly the way it was in the comic books, which means that all the characters would have been white men and white women. Sure, would that made the movie better? Like the movie would have been a thumbs up if you just race swapped everybody back to white. That's not I don't think the racial identity was the problem with that movie. Is the point I'm trying to make.
I'm sorry to cut you up. It's also the point that there's also a whole bunch of black characters like I said, Static, Vixen. There was who else was there? I mean, that's Luke Cage, which got canceled. Again, that was a great series right there, Luke Cage. It got canceled. Like, they keep on taking all these characters that was predominantly white, like they did Batman, Superman, and that whole black transsexual Wonder Woman. There's plenty of black characters that's on the shelves of Marvel and DC. And instead of, like, making those characters or bring those characters in to be like a more influence, they rather just take some predominantly white characters and turn them black in order to say, hey, look, we made Superman black. We're all for representation. No, you're not. You're more for the whole virtue signaling, and even the whole gay Superman thing. The people that they was trying to appease for did not actually buy that comic. They trying to make make comics for people who don't even support them that much. They are making all these changes, and they core fan base, like people who actually love Static, are just asking like, yo, where's Static? Why isn't Static in the DCEU, or why doesn't he have his own live action TV show yet? And that's what a lot of people are getting, like, kind of irritated with DC and Marvel. It's not just a white person thing. It's also black people who love these characters, but just keep them predominantly white. Prime example, my family is like I said, my family is pro-black, and they say and they say keep Superman black. Give us an actual original black person that we can look into, and we can actually try to compare ourselves with. But
right.
if you try to mention some things like that, you're apparently going against the grain that they trying to push, which is more race swapping, which is not, a lot of black people did not ask for this. And mainly, if you actually look at who actually writes these books, it's mainly white people that's always race swapping, like woke white people who are out of touch with how black people think. They think all black people are the same. They think black people do this. They think black people do that, and that pisses off a lot of black comic book readers.
I mean, you know what? Let's talk about race swapping real quick because that seems to be a huge issue when they take a character who's white in the comics and make them black, or they sex swap them, right? They take a male character and they make him a female. Listen, I'm not going to pretend like sometimes it doesn't work, but I would say most of the time, like 70, 80% of the time, it doesn't change the character at all. Most of the time, it doesn't affect the character. It doesn't affect the narrative. And there's so many examples of when they've race swapped characters or sex swapped characters. And because it was done well, nobody was really mad. I mean, Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman was originally white in the comics. Mm-hmm. I didn't see nobody complaining about Zoe Kravitz, maybe because she's sexy AF. And, you know what I mean? They just let her, they let her cook. Like, it's just interesting who they get triggered by when they race swap certain characters, but in other characters, when they race swap them, it's not a problem. Like Lucius Fox, I don't think Lucius Fox was black. Was he black in the comics? Maybe he was black in the comics. I don't know, but I just feel like I don't think it's as big of a deal as you guys make it. I think that you can easily change the race and easily change the sex of a character, and it really doesn't matter. Now, in terms of why they would do that, is that most of these comics that we're adapting, most of them are from the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. I mean, Static Shock, okay, he was in the 90s. And once again, in the 90s is when they just started giving black superheroes shine. Like, that's when we just started to turn in a little bit more diverse. But if you go back before the 90s to the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, there weren't any characters of color, almost. And there were very few female characters prominent. So if you're going to adapt some stuff that's 40, 50 years old, I mean, just adjusting to today's time, all it is change. That's all it is. It's change and it's development. But once again, it's the core values of those characters, the core values of those people are the same. I'll give you a point that's in your favor. In your favor, right? Black Widow, a movie that I thought was all right, but I know a lot of people didn't like. What they did with Taskmaster, by swapping the sex of Taskmaster, I had a problem with that character, not because they made him a woman, but because they just made him or her somebody completely different than who Taskmaster was in the comics. That's an example when they went too far, right? Because they kind of completely changed the narrative of who that core character was. I'll give you another example: the movie Dune that just came out. I love Dune. I love that book. I love the Dune movies. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but one of the characters, Dr. Leah Kynes, that was a white man in the books, and they made him a black woman, and it didn't change anything. Nothing is different about the character. The character is exactly the same, except that now it's a black woman instead of being a white man, and the story is exactly the same. It's unaffected. That movie was still amazing. Everything worked. So the point that I'm trying to make is sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does work. But when it doesn't work, it's not because the race or the sex. It's because it was poorly written and they didn't think it through. That's my point.
Okay, I can agree with you on that one. If it's poorly executed, then yes, it's going to make it look bad. But it's also the whole we do have original black characters that are on the shelves, but these white people that are buying these comics don't want to put them front page. Like the last time I read a Static Shock comic, it was like 2 years ago. And I had not known what was going on since then, because I canceled my DC comic subscription. I canceled my Disney Plus subscription. I canceled those things. But I do have my HBO Max though. But as far as, you know, what a lot of us are saying, we want some actual black characters that are on the shelves that can be well written. But the thing is, these white progressives that are behind the tables writing these comics or drawing these comics, writing the storyline, they would not put those certain black people, those established black characters that we can all relate to, and put them on the front shelves. That's one of the main problems. Like the whole race hopping thing. In my opinion, it makes no sense, because you could just create an original black character. Like what? Apparently, I don't know if you're familiar with the Amazing Lucas. Apparently he says race swapping characters is more harder than actually making an original black character, which is a bona fide lie. Because if you actually, all you gotta do is just keep the same storyline, but turn this person black, like how they did with Black Superman. Apparently he was getting his powers from Black Lives Matter. Like who actually thought that was a good idea?
So wait, when you talk about Black Superman, are you talking about the movie that they have in development with Ta-Nehisi Coates?
No, the one I think came out like 2 years ago.
There's a Black Superman movie or a TV show?
No, a comic book.
Oh, was that a Black Clark Kent, or was that a different? Was that like the other Kryptonian dude, like Val-El or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think his name was a Clark Kent. I got to read back into it.
So then he's a different character then. He's not race swapped. He's a new character they made who happened to be black.
But it's pretty much the same origin though. He was the last of his kind, and he draws power from BLM and not the sun.
Okay. I mean, listen, that I haven't read that. When you explain it like that, yeah, that sounds pretty corny. That doesn't really sound well thought out. I would have to read the comic to really make an opinion on it. I don't want to make an opinion on something that I haven't read. But yeah, I mean, just off your expression, sure. I already said sometimes it goes too far. Like, let me give you an analogy, and this is the analogy I give to all of my conservative, libertarian friends. Right now, when you have the Me Too movement, you have the George Floyd, whatever, you have all these different things that are happening culturally to America, right? And right now, America is like a shower head. Like, you go in the shower, you turn the shower head, and you get into the water, and the water's too cold. So what do? You turn the shower head to the right, but then it's too hot, right? So now you turn the shower head back to the left. Now it's still a little bit too cold. You turn it right. You see what I'm saying? You keep adjusting that shower water until you get the perfect temperature. We're still adjusting. That's what we're doing. Like changing the racial tensions and unraveling and unpacking the sexual tensions between women and all that stuff and gay people and trans people. That's going to take a long time for us to figure it all out. So we're just twisting that shower head right now. But the problem is sometimes, yeah, it will go too far to the left. Sometimes they will make a mistake with like a Black Superman or whatever. Sometimes it'll go too far to the right or whatever. But eventually, hopefully, if we all come together and start listening to each other, we can find a throughway and find that perfect temperature where we're all pretty much happy. But what I don't like is all of this like this blame game, like, oh my God, it's this SJW, it's the virtue signaling. Like what that dude Ryan said, and you already said that you didn't agree with it, right. But like the energy is what I'm saying, the energy that these websites are having, and I'm talking about Ryan, I'm talking about Nerdtronic, I'm talking about Geeks and Gamers, I'm talking about some of the stuff that I've seen from Young Ripper. The energy is very one note, and it seems like any time you try to do anything different with diversity or inclusion or change, it's automatically a problem. It's automatically whack, and the whole woke is broke thing is wrong too. Because there's a lot of examples of woke stuff making lots and lots and lots and lots of money. If you look at the top 10 comics and the top 10 selling graphic novels of last year, a lot of them have female characters, Black characters, gay characters, and in the lead. So yeah, you can point the finger to the gay Superman and say, that flopped or whatever. But there's a bunch of other comics and graphic novels that y'all not talking about that are doing exceptionally well, that are woke as fuck. Yeah. And I just don't. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, you gotta stop me, bro. I'll keep talking.
Now you good, man. Hey, just because is gay Black woman, that doesn't necessarily mean it's woke. It's how they push it is woke, because I think Gear from Static Shock, he was gay. That wasn't really a big deal to a lot of people, because because they can still see themselves as Gear, but with the way Gear was and how he was written, it's why it drove a lot of people in. But the way people are written nowadays, it's more of and how the comic book writers write them as or have interviews. They say, if you don't like what I'm doing, you are a Klansman, a homophobic, transphobic, white supremacist. You are if you are a Black guy who doesn't like this, you're a sellout. You're a coon. You're Uncle Tom. Like it's no winning with these guys. It's like every time they just open their mouth and say, like, and some of us be like, yo, we don't like this. They say, oh my God, you are a freaking Nazi. That's what the problem why a lot of people are being drove away by these comic books and some of these
I understand what you're saying, and you're right about that. I'll agree with you about that. That some of the people use that language that's very triggering, but the thing about it is, when you look at it from their perspective, when you look at it from a woman's perspective, or a gay writer's perspective, or a black writer perspective, or whatnot, these people have been, like I said, they've had to fight very hard to get to this point. You know, like I myself am entering into the comic world and whatever, and it's not easy getting a seat at the table. And when you spend years and years, sometimes decades, fighting so hard to get, you know, your seat at the table, and you do something like make a gay Superman or whatever, and then you got a bunch of trolls who come at you and like, oh my God, you're ruining it, this and every whatever. Yeah, you get triggered too, and you start using those words and those language that you know will trigger them as well. And a lot of that is just the way the internet works. You know, the way you and I are talking, how you and I are having this, like, you know, back and forth, we're listening to each other and trying to digest each other's words. This is not how this conversation would have happened over Twitter or in the comments. You know what I mean? Where most of these conversations are happening, they're happening in toxic environments. And that's why I don't put my opinion on YouTube. I don't put my opinion on TikTok or nothing like that. I'm not as bold as y'all, because I know that there's going to be a bunch of trolls in the comments who are just going to trigger me, and then I'm going to end up saying some stuff that I probably shouldn't say. I think if you were to take a lot of these people, both on the left and the right, put them in a room together and have some civil conversations, they would actually speak to each other like human beings. But the problem is we're feeding into this algorithmic hatreds, you know, and that's why Young Ripper, it bothers me, and that's why, you know, Jody was calling him an Uncle Ruckus, calling him an Uncle Tom. I'm not going to use those type of words. Even though I agree with Jody, I'm not going to use that terminology because it doesn't help the conversation. And that's why that conversation went left, where they just started, you know, having jokes on each other. They stopped debating. They started having jokes on each other. But the core of what Jody was saying, what did Uncle Ruckus do? Uncle Ruckus, his whole philosophy and his whole mentality was supporting the white man, essentially.
Just cut you off right there. You got to also remember, when it came to Uncle Ruckus, like from the Boondocks, he was born white, but he had that skin complexion that made him more darker. So I wouldn't say like he was a black man being a sellout. It was more like he was just a white man with dark skin being who he think he is. That's the thing. And then the whole what Joni Corder said about Ripper getting his fame and recognition from geeks and gamers is also a fat lie, because Ripper has a much bigger following than geeks and gamers. Jeremy, Ryan, any one of these white guys that apparently Jody Corner said is using Ripper as a tokenization to say whatever they please. That's also a bona fide lie, because this guy did not actually look at how many views Geeks and Gamers
but
get.
That makes it worse. The fact that he has more viewers only makes it worse, because now you have an apologist and a sympathizer who's black and has a bigger audience than you even do. So that even justifies your viewpoints even further by having him co-sign.
Yeah, but what Jody says that his fame and glory came from Jeremy and Geeks and Gamers, which is a lie.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, I don't know the history like that, so if that's true, that's true. And I mean, I don't know, man. Like I haven't watched every single one of these videos, so I don't know all the information. But from what I have seen, it does seem like Geeks and Gamers leans on Ripper very, very heavily when they have these racial debates. And I mean, I think that's what Andy Signor was trying to say. Andy Signor, who kind of instigated this whole thing, by the way. But Andy Signor totally, he caught that too. He's like, anytime they have some racial beef, they call on Eric July. And he comes through and he saves them and he bails them out. And I'm sure it's not like that every single time. I'm sure he's critical of them too. But once again, this debate, my whole point is that there is no wrong side. There is no right side. There's different viewpoints scattered in between. But when you go to somebody's YouTube channel and you see video thumbnail after thumbnail after thumbnail that just has the word woke, like especially that dude Ryan, who got called out with that Batman thing. See, you can look at what he said about the Batman and you can break it down and say, oh, it wasn't really racist, it wasn't yada, yada, yada. Okay, sure. But if there's a pile of other stuff that guy has said under that one phrase, that means that we know what he's really trying to say. I mean, if you go into a Batman movie with the piece of paper tallying how many black people are in one category and how many white people, you're going in there with a bias. You're going in there with a prejudice. And you might even be racist. I don't default go to racist, but he's either biased, prejudiced, racist, or a little bit of everything. Because no one else watches that movie paying attention to those details. You're the only one who walked out that movie be like, I noticed that there was a certain amount of black people who were good and a certain amount of white people who were bad. No one else watched a movie like that. You're the only one who went there because you were looking for something. You went to that movie with the intention of trying to see if there was anything that would validate your perspective about there being a woke agenda. And I just think that this toxicity is really infecting your guys' ability to appreciate media. And that's one of the things that Jody was saying about your mind is twisted with politics. That was another thing that he said. He said your mind is twisted with politics, and I agree. Because if you go into a Batman movie and you're counting black and white people, how are you going to enjoy it? How are you going to just enjoy the movie for what it is if you have this, I'm looking for the SJWs, or I'm looking for the virtue signaling. Oh, there it goes. It's like the bat signal. Here's a virtue signal. Let me write it down so I can make a video tomorrow about it. And like I just feel I feel bad for y'all. I feel bad for y'all that y'all just can't watch movies and TV shows and enjoy them for what they are without being triggered every time they make someone not the race they were 50 years ago. Like, I don't know, man.
I mean, you can say the same thing about Spider-Man and how they turned Mary Jane black. I ain't really care about that whatsoever. As long
because Zendaya is hot. That's what I'm saying. As long as a hot black women like a Zendaya or Zoe Kravitz, the neckbeards are quiet. Y'all quiet AF. You know what I mean? But let it be a Leslie Jones. Let it be a Leslie Jones. Oh, you guys got plenty of smoke. Plenty of smoke. I mean, when it's a beautiful black woman, nothing. Crickets.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same way with Halle Berry. Like I said, nowadays in 2022 entertainment, it's more of the directors and people and the creators be like, if you don't like what I'm doing, you can just go to hell. Back then, it wasn't that serious. Nobody was looking at these movies. Even in 2005 times, nobody was really mainly focused on how diverse the movie was until all these directors was talking about how diverse it is, or how we are doing this for representation for this certain group of people, with this certain group of people, and a lot of people that they do it for. Like again, it's mainly white people who watch these movies, but you would have some people out here, even from who they try to represent for, saying, yeah, we ain't really like this what y'all doing, but they treat that like the silent majority, which it is, and they go for all these people on Twitter. Like, prime example, Black Lives Matter. Apparently from Twitter, everybody thinks Black Lives Matter is the voice of black people. Which is not the case at all, because there's a bunch of people who do not agree with the sentiment of Black Lives Matter. They agree with what they are saying. Like, they want better trained police. They want less black people dead. But it's also the organization and the leaders that don't make that happen. It was supposed to be a means for helping racial diversity. I mean, not racial diversity. Yeah, some racial tensions between cops and black people. But I've not seen not one ounce of that money actually goes towards helping out the black community, or try to help housing and all that stuff for predominantly black people, or schools, or going to Congress. They may have talked to some politicians, but they actually take any of that money and actually help them out. They just use, like, Patrisse Cullors, one of the founders of the BLM organization. She used that money to buy herself five mansions in California, and when everybody criticized her for it, black and white, she just said, "Hey, I gotta make a means to live," which basically means I'm taking your money. I don't care what you say, and people are still donating to that organization, and that organization has not really did a lot for real. It may have spread a message, but as far as helping out some racial tensions between black and white people and policing, it did not really do a thing. And then you have CNN, the Young Turks, MSNBC just making it a lot more worse than what it already is.
I mean, these are all facts. I mean, if we want to talk about media manipulation and politics, I'm not going to debate you on that, because I don't really disagree with you on all those points. The only thing that I would say is that, the ball is in one hand or the other. If it's in Fox News, they're going to manipulate the truth. If it's in MSNBC, CNN, for every Young Turks, there's a OAN or whatever. Like the media has been fucked for the last 10 years.
I agree.
Let's be honest. So I'm not debating that at all with you. I agree with you. But I want to respond to some of the things that some of these people saying. Okay, I'm triggered. I'm just passionate. I speak passionately. If that counts to you as being triggered, fine. So they want to talk about. They want us to talk about Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yeah, Ghost in the Shell. I don't know why they got Black Widow to play that. They should have got somebody else.
So I mean, this is the debate in reverse, right? Because now they race swap somebody to a white person, right? Now the reason that I have a problem with that is, for one, you adapted an anime,
right?
You adapted an anime. You adapted something that was clearly rooted heavily in Japanese, culture and Japanese future culture. So by race swapping it to a white person, you're taking away the cultural narrative. That would be almost as bad as making Black Panther white. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't make a movie. Go ahead.
I love that argument right there. I love that argument. I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, why is it a problem for this white person to be turned black?" But then if they end up turning Black Panther to a white guy, but then it's a problem. Like you can't have it just one way. You gotta have it both ways. Which is a lot of things that some people, mainly on Twitter, and Twitter is toxic as as hell, that a lot of people do not understand. They are fine with this character being turned into a certain color, but when it comes to Black people being turned white, boom, it's like Civil War Part 2.
They're saying that her body was shaped from a white woman. I mean, that may be true. But still, I mean, it was. Where does that movie take place? It takes place in what, Neo Tokyo or whatever, right?
I think so, but
or am I confusing that with Akira? I'm not sure.
All I know is that show was based in Japan, so she shouldn't be betrayed by a Japanese woman.
Right.
I would say this to their manga, anime should not be turned into a Hollywood movie because what they did with Dragon Ball, Avatar, what they did with freaking
it's all trash. There hasn't been one good live adaptation. The best one might be Cowboy Bebop, and even that one, didn't even do it. But there's one more thing I want to mention, and I don't know how long you wanted to debate for, but there's one more thing I wanted to mention is that what I noticed, another thing that I'm having an issue with is that when people try to do something that changes race or changes sex or changes sexuality or whatever, and it doesn't work out, right? People get mad at it, right? But then when something is out there that is racially neutral, sex neutral, whatever, and it's bad, you guys don't have problems. I'll give you a perfect example. Ghostbusters 2016, right? It's kind of like a landmark movie, right? Because this was like when this whole anti-woke stuff really, really started, in my opinion. It was like a turning point. When that movie came out, it was so poorly reviewed and so poorly received. A lot of people were furious, and a lot of people were really furious that they changed all the Ghostbusters to women. Now, I'll go on record, that movie was not good. I did not enjoy that movie that much. Right. But when I walked out of that movie, I didn't like it because it just wasn't a great movie. I had no problems with them changing the sex of the characters, and this is why I mentioned Leslie Jones. Somebody was trying to say something about Leslie Jones. The reason I mentioned Leslie Jones is that she got kicked off Twitter. You know what I mean? They came at her so hard, she got kicked off Twitter. And the point that I'm trying to make is that Hollywood puts out all these whack remakes, like Total Recall, that was whack, nobody cared about. RoboCop, that was whack, nobody cared about. They put out all these whack remakes, right? And if it's starring a white man and it's a whack remake, it just falls off to obscurity. It gets a rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and everyone forgets about it. But because that movie had 4 women in it, if it had 4 men and it was just as bad, no one would be talking about Ghostbusters. The reason that everyone keeps talking about Ghostbusters is because there was women. It could have had 4 men and been just as bad. Same script, same trash movie, and no one would have gave a crap. And the point I'm trying to make is that Black people and women are not allowed to fail. When we fail, we get 5 times as much scrutiny as when a white man fails. In order for us to succeed, we have to have a home run, like a Black Panther or a Shang-Chi. It has to be a perfect movie. It has to be the type of movie that Ryan and Geeks and Gamers and Nerdtronic can't critique. Because if it's a little bit below 100%, then you guys are gonna blame it for virtue signaling.
Some people. There's also some people out. Some Black people out there that didn't like Black Panther. I ain't talking about white ringers either. Yes, that movie made like $2 billion, and you know the actors, the fight scenes, like the Killmonger's motives. Okay, we all understood what it was going for, but you also gotta mention like characters like movies like Blade, movies like what was that other movie with the black superhero? I'll get back to you on that one. But yeah, Blade that was also a really great trilogy. Blade 3, yeah, it kind of missed the market, but nobody did really complain that much about the Blade trilogy. And the whole I remember there was somebody in there that said what was I? I'm blanking out right here on that movie.
Black Panther, the movie is not above critique. I'm not saying it was a perfect movie, and it's okay. I know black people who didn't like it either. That's fine. All I'm saying is that Black Panther was good enough. It was a good enough movie that it rose above the normal virtue signaling woke critique. Because if you watch that movie, it's super woke. It's extremely woke. But because it was good enough, most people did not criticize it for that. And the point that I'm trying to make is that if you make a movie and it's not that great, and it has some type of virtue signaling or some type of wokeness, then they're going to get criticized for it being woke, not for it being bad. But if you make it really, really, really good, then they'll let go of the wokeness, they'll let go of the virtue signaling critique, and they'll say, okay, Black Panther was all right, it was cool.
I mean,
it was extremely woke.
I wouldn't say
how woke Black Panther is. I mean, friggin' Shuri called him a colonist. Friggin' Killmonger wanted to he basically wanted reparations for slavery, essentially. Like it's as woke as woke.
He wanted more than that. And I wouldn't say Black Panther was extremely woke because there was a lot of subliminal messages in that movie that takes aim at black culture when it comes to wigs, when it comes to like the family household, brothers and sisters, all that stuff. There was a whole lot of subliminal messages in that movie alone. But
right. And a lot of people liked it. For Black Panther, where's the million of thumbnails criticizing how woke that movie is? Where's all the thumbnails? Same thing with Peacemaker. Peacemaker is a great example. How come there's not a million critiques about how woke Peacemaker is? If wokeness is the problem, if the problem that you guys are all saying is that there's this agenda of forced inclusion and forced diversity and forced virtue signaling, here you have a TV show that has all of that and there's no critique for it because it was a good, well-written show, then that means the problem is not the force of diversity. The problem is how well-written it is. Because if you write it really good, you can get a Peacemaker or a Black Panther or Get Out and people say it's great, even though they're super, super woke. People say it's great, so it's not about the wokeness.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Peacemaker was woke though. If you mainly talk about the black lesbian chick, that's not really a big topic because it's not really the whole. Like I said, just because it's gay doesn't mean it's woke. That's a lot.
So I don't know what woke means because I get all these videos, I see all these people's comments. And it's very unclear to me what that definition means. It's like a stretchable definition that you kind of put on whatever it is that you feel is not woke. Because to me, you have a black lesbian who's essentially being a superhero. Because I know Young Ripper, I know he's very critical on physical health and physical fitness. So here you have an overweight black lesbian. That's like literally 3 check boxes who's being a superhero. And she's fighting a racist white Klansman. How is that not woke? Because I don't get it.
No, because we was fighting Klansmen back then was not really a big woke thing. It was mainly fighting an oppressor, which was what Peacemaker's dad was. He was an oppressor who wanted black people to be back in shackles, chains, and all that stuff. That's not really a big woke term like some people be saying. That's more of a historical fact. That's not a woke ideology. That's his facts.
Tell me something that's woke. Tell me like a TV show movie that was woke that you or Young Ripper or any of these guys would have an issue with the virtue signaling or the social justice warrior, white knighting, snowflake. I'm trying to get every single term that y'all use.
My
leftism.
Yeah, my definition of woke is how mainly white progressives or white leftists try to pick like what a certain group of people are, even though some of them are basically tone deaf a bit. They don't actually go towards some like actual people who've been like raised in these communities. They just see things from like what CNN, what Twitter says, and they don't really see that as some legitimate facts. And they also want to push this whole forced or diversity, this forced representation when they just make a great movie with a black character or with a Hispanic character, Japanese character. They can make all these movies. Prime example, Shang-Chi was a great movie. There was that movie was a representation of Japanese people or Chinese. I'm sorry, and that movie did not have like no sort of interviews where people say, "Oh, we love the representation. We love the representation of this. We love the representation of that." And there's also Batwoman, who did the whole, "Oh, I'm not about to let a man do a woman's job." When Batwoman literally stole things from Batman, like the Batcave, and tried to take it as own. That's what I would define mainly as woke. Basically perpetrating, and you're not even the original creator and stuff like that.
But Batwoman was just that just wasn't a good show. Like, it just wasn't a well written show. Like they switched actors. They had a problem with their main actress. She quit for whatever reason, or she got injured or whatever. And CW they've had a quality control problem for like the last 3 years. The CW has tried to do too much. They have too many shows, too many characters, too many episodes. They lost the ability to keep control of their quality, and now they're just putting out bad shows. I don't have any problem with them swapping the race of Batwoman, and they had to get a new actress. Like, that the actress quit, so they had to get a new actress. Yeah, they got a black actress, so what? Like, that's not, I don't know. That show, had it been written by James Gunn or something like that, it probably would have been the best show on TV. Like, your man on here, Count Chocula, says, "I don't know the source material." Man, buddy, I'm 40 years old. I've been reading comics since I was 8 years old. Marvel, DC, Image, everything. I highly doubt that you have more comic knowledge than me. So I trust me. I know the source material. I've read all these comics. I own all these comics. Unlike most people, I actually read comic books. So I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, listen, I watched a couple episodes of Batwoman, and it was meh. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't that great. But once again, the fact that we had black females in the lead, to me, that wasn't the problem with it. Like, I feel like we keep going back to the same debate. I feel like you and I are bouncing back. I think we both made our points, and I respect where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. I understand you a little bit more, but at the same time, you're not as polarizing as a lot of the other people from this community. You are not. If I was having this debate right now with Ripa, it would have gone completely different. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a lot more level-headed and a lot more reasonable in your opinion, and we could just agree to disagree. You know what I mean? We agree on some things, we disagree on some stuff. I'm really cool with that. That's fine. But all I'm speaking not to you directly, but to this community that keeps growing and growing and keeps, getting all this, energy that is completely misdirected. We need to return back to just critiquing television shows and movies for the quality of the writing, the quality of production, the quality of the acting. Enough of this wokeness, blaming everything on woke. Anytime they do something, we see a trailer. Oh my God, there's a woman in the trailer. Oh, it's dead on arrival. Like, all the smoke that y'all have for Lord of the Rings and Halo and all this stuff that y'all haven't even seen yet. You haven't even seen the shows. You won't watch the trailers, and you're already making these opinions. That just shows that you have prejudice. If you go you turn on a TV show, you walk into a movie theater, and you're already hating it. There's no way you're going to like it. There's no way you're going to appreciate it for what it is. And I just want y'all to realize that you guys have this veil over your face. Like Jody said, twisted with politics. You have all this political stuff in your brain, and you're running all of the content through this political filter, and it's coming out twisted. You're not seeing this stuff for what it is. Like I said, once again, maybe something is a little bit too woke or whatever. Maybe they leaned on something a little bit too much. Okay, you can critique that, but I just think that you guys got to really reevaluate how you're looking at television and movies, because, like I said, I feel bad for y'all, because y'all are just not gonna like anything unless it's like a straight white dude, you know what I mean, being masculine or something like that. And I don't think I have anything else really more to say, man.
Well, okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on, us having this discussion, man. We both got some things out, man, and I hope everybody enjoyed this live stream, man. Thank you very much for being my very first debate, man.
Yep, no problem, man. And I'll come back whenever we want, man.
All right, man. You have a good day.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Peace.
See you. Well, well, yeah, that's my very first debate. There was some things we agreed upon. There were some things we didn't agree upon. That's his opinion. That's his what he thinks. I'm not gonna be doxing him for what he's thinking. It's his right to think how what he believes. There's some things I do agree with him on. And it's also some things that I don't agree with him on, like the whole race up thing, being like it's kind of pretty lazy and all that stuff. You got all these white progressive writers making all these changes for representing black people. A lot of us say it's lazy, but he says it shouldn't really be a big deal. It's like I said, it's his opinion, it's his what he thinks. And it was a good conversation. So P.SO Overtone, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate that very much for being my very first debate. Hopefully I'll have some more debates going down the road. And yep, yeah, I'm going an hour and a half in this thing. I'm gonna trim this video out so it'll just be the conversation between me and P.SO Overtone, and I'm gonna change the thumbnail and all that stuff. Shout out to him. Like I said, man. Let's go to some of these comments real quick. Okay. Yep. Like I said, man, if you like the stream, make show some support, like, comments, share, subscribe, and let's get into some of these comments. Wokeness is things like saying all cops are evil and gangs are good. I would just call that stupid. I would just call that stupid. Stop blaming things 150 years in the past. Well, let's make a bet. If Halo is good, you can have my $2 in a bag of Cheetos. Okay. No. Okay. Yeah. Don't cut. Yeah. No need to call him a clown. No need to say he's stupid. It's just, it's his personal opinion. Yeah. Woman called a woman hater. Yeah, you was shouted down if you didn't like 2016 Ghostbusters because the woman, you were called a woman hater. Which it's true. You was called a woman hater if you didn't like the Ghostbusters. You was called a misogynistic piece of crap. But yeah, man, if you don't like a certain movie when it comes to women, because there's plenty of movies out there that stars a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So the whole it's a woman or it's a black person, so it's automatically going to be bad. No, unless they actually say that, that's not the point that a lot of people are trying to make. But if it's poorly written and and you mainly have a female character saying like kill all men or all men are trash, like what they did with Captain Marvel and Batwoman, yeah, then you could guarantee the movie because Captain Marvel was trash. That movie was grade A freaking trash. Now what Zack Snyder did with Justice League with his version of the movie and not just Justice League's version, he highly made Wonder Woman more of the better character in that movie. Even though you had Superman and Batman, that movie did bring a lot of shine to Wonder Woman and the Amazon. So I can't really say like if it's a woman, it's a bad thing, because as long as that female actor is portrayed like an actual like an actual warrior or someone to actually rely upon, it's not going to be much like that much of a big deal if it's a woman or not. But yeah, that's just my take on it. And like once again, shout out to him, shout out to P.SO for coming on, and hopefully we can have a discussion again sometime down the road. And and if you guys enjoyed the live stream, if you enjoyed the debate and you want to see more debates like this, make sure to leave a I got get out here. I got to go do some shopping. But yeah, man, if you guys if you guys like the show, subscribe, share the video, hit the notification bell. Make sure if you want to support the channel, make sure that you that you donate. And yeah, we'll be doing this some other time, man. And I will hit you up in the next one. Peace.